world. It's like
unreleased song, not an album.
even before
Yeah.
release, it's featured here on the podcast. So if anyone is watching, can ultimately see the process as such from the start. But yeah. Hello and welcome to the podcast. And joining with me is Ambrish. So we are actually going to be discussing about the entire field of music and also what he does as well. And thank you for staying tuned to the episodes as of now, since we did the filmmaking series as such. So now I'd be before I move on to like introducing Ambrish, so do check out the episodes as well. And also, if I could give like a very it's not like a very brief introduction about Humphreys, but then what's as per his Instagram bio, which kind of like interests me. It's like 70% lawyer, makes electronic music, and also about his new song as well. So Humphreys, how are you doing? And welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Joel. Thanks for having me. And I'm doing great. This is my first ever podcast, or rather, an interview. So, in a way, but yes, excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Humphreys. So like this is gonna be like a kind of conversation, and what we're gonna be dealing with is also about his work as well, and also what interests him in the field. So if you could just introduce yourself for the benefit of the audience, what you do, uh, and also what you're currently on as well.
Yes. So, my name is Ambarish. I am from a small town called Kumarapalayam in Tamil Nadu, India. And I study with Joel. I'm Joel's senior from law school, School of Law, Christ University, in my fourth year currently. And I make electronic music and I'm also a DJ. So I started doing this from my first year of law school, which was in 2018. So I went to a DJ academy. I learned electronic music production, DJing, and since then I've been performing and I've also been producing music. I primarily make house music and subgenres of house like UK garage, and I try to fuse that with Indian and ambient sounds. And yeah, this is my introduction. A short one.
Yeah. Thanks, Ambrish. Like so, since you mentioned about your interest in electronic music and what really like I have often asked this question to us as well. So especially in the previous episode, I asked this person like he's also doing law, but also his major interest is into acting or into filmmaking as such. So I don't want to be acting like the judgmental parent or any of that. So then, what's like your right approach towards either law or towards pursuing towards electronic music?
Right now, I'm trying to keep it at 70 and 30%. 70 for law and 30 for music. I am, frankly, in the last few months, I have not been able to produce so much. But before that, I was devoting a lot of my time for music. So many sleepless nights, so much of effort went into making music. And the result of that is all the songs on my Spotify. Throughout quarantine in 2020 and also in 2021, the first half of 2021, a lot of time was spent on making music. But now in fourth year, I'm starting to focus more towards law than music. But I eventually, I'm looking forward to getting back on track with music as well, trying to make more tracks. And I have an unreleased track right now. I think we would eventually, I will be able to show it to you, eventually play it for you, and I take you through all of it. But this is my current project, and I think after I release this, I'll get back on track, make more tracks, take inspiration from my existing work and everything else out there, and try and devote more time to music.
Yes. Definitely. So, like Ambrish, you had mentioned that you had gone to like the academy and learned a bit as well. But if I would, example, if I would take about myself who started into music, was like it's though the notion was that I often had interest towards Western music. But then since I was like in my first or second grade, I used to like go to this auntie who's like do Carnatic music, and then every evening like sari kama, and then like till my second or third grade, I used to like continue doing. I never ventured into Western music as such. But how about you? Like, why you really interested? Like you mentioned that you had gone and learned the entire process as such. So, is there something in your childhood which you felt that that is something I could possibly do, and that's the reason why I shifted? Or is it because you often stayed with a particular style of music as such?
So I have never been I hadn't been exposed to electronic music or much of Western music during my childhood, because now my place would be considered as urban, but previously it was semi-urban and rather rural. So all you listen to is local music. I remember my childhood memories tell me that I was rather bored of listening to the same kind of songs over and over again. There is this channel called Sun Music in Tamil Nadu, and they just play the latest Tamil songs in it. And I used to be rather bored of it. And I also had a Carnatic music teacher who taught me music, sa re ga ma. My mom sent me to piano classes, but I hadn't learned. I didn't pick up music back then. I gravitated more towards sports and then eventually towards academics. But music, I never received classical training in music. But now, during my late teens, everything changed. Mid and late teens. I think when I was 14, it was a random occurrence. I was texting my crush from ninth grade, and I asked her, "What is your favorite kind of music?" Yeah, so I was texting my crush from ninth grade, and then I asked her, "What is your kind of music?" Because the music topic came up, and she said, "Listen to Titanium by David Guetta." And I went and I listened to the song. I didn't listen to the original song, but I listened to the remix by Alesso. That was my first time listening to a proper electronic music song, and my mind was absolutely blown. I couldn't fathom that people could make music like this and something that sounds so alien. And because it sounded so alien, it fascinated me. And that is what drew me inspiration. And after that, since it was the age of internet, a lot of music had come to the access of Indians. And so since everything was at your fingertips, I got exposed to a lot of more electronic music. And then in 2018, I decided after coming to college that I figured out Bangalore is the scene for music, electronic music, especially. Because one thing about people in Bangalore is they're very open-minded. They want to listen to something new and different, and they want to expose themselves to different kinds of artists, different kinds of music from all across the world. Something that you do not necessarily find elsewhere in the country. So Bangalore is unique for that. And then I realized since this culture is present, I might as well try and enter it. Even if not professionally, it's fine. At least to an amateurist level, I should try. So I went and I signed up for the classes. And so the rest is what happened after that. Started playing shows. And
Tamil Nadu, you already have R Rahman, Illaiyaraja, and those great composers as such. But your interest was towards like David Guetta. I'm guessing also Swedish House Mafia and also like basically house music as such. So
exactly.
Is that a lack in the electronic scene in India, or like is it basically like it's still at this very nascent stage, or is it because it's still not grown up as such compared to what it's in the West as such?
True, electronic music scene in India is growing right now. So I would say we are almost 10 years behind. You see, today marks the anniversary. Today is the 1st of February, 2022. Today marks the anniversary for Don't You Worry Child by Swedish House Mafia, Clarity by Zed. All of those were released exactly back in 2012, 2nd January. And one of my friends, he sent me an Instagram reel showing all these legendary house music songs being released for the first time. Today marks the birth anniversary. Then I realized right now in India, the scene is growing. A lot of Indian artists are coming up. They're putting out releases that are being featured in places like Anjuna Deep, record labels, Anjuna Deep, Anjuna Beats. Those are popular house music, progressive house, techno records, record labels. And so because it's 2022, these things are happening. But I think the rest of the world, as in the West, is at least 10 years ahead of India in terms of electronic music. But in the film industry, like you said, R Rahman and Illaiyaraja, but they were very ahead of their time, at least in terms of film industry, because they started incorporating Western elements into their music 30 years back. In the 80s, they bought the latest Yamaha synthesizers, Casio synthesizers, drum machines, and they started incorporating all of those into Indian film music. So if you listen closely, you will be able to identify old Yamaha synthesizer sounds that you hear in present electronic music records or 80s disco. Uh, yeah, but independent music is just growing now. I think that is where that is something that I strongly feel.
Like, is it also because of the lockdown? Because see, like the example that I don't know if it's the right example to give, but then Yashraj Mukhate or even Mayur Jamani, like they take all these dialogues of a particular series or even songs as well, and then they try to make it into like more electronic as such. Is it how do you analyze or assess with regard to those kind of things? Like, because I've also seen that there's also one video on your Instagram. What a nice background theme by Illaiyaraja, and then you like made it into like full like electronic music as such. So is it like something which is on the rise, with like taking old stuff or taking dialogues and things like, and trying to convert it into a lot more modern version, or because everything has its own taste and sound of the particular time as such?
Exactly. I think your observations are absolutely correct. During the lockdown, a lot of home studio bedroom producers, they have been on the rise. So bedroom producer is a term that has been around for a long time, but in India, it is getting its relevance now. A bedroom producer could be any person with a laptop and just keyboard and mouse and a good pair of headphones. And you have softwares like FL Studio, Ableton. So they are called digital audio workstations. So if you have access to them, you can pretty much just start making music right away, just with your keyboard and mouse. And it doesn't, all the instruments are built in there. So what people do is they take old records and they try to modernize it. They try to make it more basic, make it more groovy. And it also makes for very interesting content to breathe new life into an 80s or 90s track. And that is the reason why many people like Yashraj Mukhate and all the other people that you mentioned have been on the rise. I have one of my friends in Chennai. Shout out to Ashwin Subramaniam. He's an upcoming music producer, and he also does comedy and skits, but primarily he's a music producer. And he's been taking a lot of old Tamil music, R Rahman, Illaiyaraja, and he's been flipping them into house and hip hop. And he's been doing an excellent job. Those really hit hard, and that is primarily because people have access to more technology and your computers are more powerful. You can sample better. They're able to support these kinds of heavy processing. Audio is heavy on your CPU. But now that computers are more powerful, people can load software into them and seamlessly work on it. Previously, it was not possible.
Like since you mentioned about taking old songs from the 80s and 90s and like especially of R Rahman and Illaiyaraja, do you think that remix of those songs is because it has a recall value? That's the reason why it's a lot more popular than homegrown or the music is made by yourself. Like though you have the essential track from the 80s and you add on to it, is it why it's more popular than people trying to like do it by themselves or do it their own solo tracks as such?
I think it's also a game of nostalgia.
Okay.
People back in 80s and 90s, like they have song. The greatness of a song is not only in its composition, but the kind of memories that are associated with it. The song might be wonderful, and if you are a person that has been listening to that song during a bad time in your life, and it makes you feel good, it's great. And if it makes you feel bad, then you don't appreciate it so much. But back in 80s and 90s, these love songs by Illaiyaraja, R Rahman, or songs that have a lot of melodies in them, people have, I think, great memories associated with them. And now, if you make a remix of it, and you make a good remix of it, you're playing with their nostalgia. You're arousing their nostalgia, and that is one reason why they're received very well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, as a layman, okay, like since you said you're just correct me if I'm wrong. You are a you are a music producer, or what's your basic role as that? And also, if you could like basically clear out the doubt as to, or even to the audience as well, as to what exactly does a person do with regard to scoring, with regard to mixing, and also the different types of like essentially the different types of or the aspects of making music as such. So what do you do? And also with regard to what like we know that R Rahman is a music composer, but then Rasul Pukati is a sound. I'm guessing he's a sound designer. But then again, it's kind of like blurry or it seems to be the same thing, because at the end of the day, then they come under the umbrella of music as such. So if you could just define as to like define for dummies kind of a version for what exactly each role is.
So a music producer is a umbrella term, and it comprises of certain things which musicians do. These are the processes involved in making music. So first there is sound designing. So you have to basically design drums and design synthesize. You have synth patches, they call it. So when you take a synthesizer, it can produce sound waves. So there is sine wave, saw wave, square wave, different types of wave that have different characteristics. And sound designers, what they do is they try to build like more complex sound from a simple sound. So those are sound designers, and they make patches and they convert them into virtual instruments. So they are sound designers, and that sound design forms the base of everything else. And then there is composition. Composers take those sounds and they arrange it. So like how there is an arranger in the orchestra, and what he does is he commands people, and the people, they play it, right? So in music terms, you are the conductor, basically, the conductor of an orchestra. So you try to arrange the pieces, you try to put those songs together and make them sound good. Once you have the arrangement of the song ready, you have the structure of the song ready. Let's say it's for 3-4 minutes. The next comes the mixing part. Mixing is more of it's not only an art, it's also a science. And it's more of a science than art. So during mixing, what you think about is what needs to be louder, what needs to be quieter. And it mainly revolves around volume, adjusting volume. In electronic music, the drums are louder, the bass is louder. Everything else can settle down. In pop tracks, vocals are more louder. And the kind of processing that you add will bring the desired result. And later comes the mastering stage. So after you've mixed the volume and everything is processed and it's constructed properly, then comes the mastering stage. During mastering, what you do is you try to ensure that the track is processed in such a manner that wherever you play, it doesn't matter if it's in your headphones or in your car stereo or in a concert, it has to sound good everywhere. Doesn't need to sound the same, but needs to sound good. So on the master channel of the track, there is the finished product. You add processing, you make the volume consistent, you make it more louder, and sometimes they add a touch of EQ and coloring. So coloring is when you give the sound a certain flavor. Sometimes it's a little more bass heavy, sometimes it's a little more treble heavy, and you make it sound sharper, softer, boomy. These are producer terms they use, and everything has a certain sort of tonality to it. And you give all of it. This is called mastering. Now, mixing and mastering are professions in themselves. There are mixing engineers, there are dedicated mastering engineers. who have been doing it for 20, 30 years. And when you just give them a file, they immediately know what to do to it. So within half an hour, they'll give you back a product that you can put out anywhere and it will sound excellent. So there are veteran mastering engineers, mixing engineers, and a lot of them can be found in Indian cinema. Extremely talented people. As a music producer, as a bedroom producer, you have to know everything. You have to be a jack of all trades. Be a master of any, but you do have to be a jack of all trades as a bedroom producer, because you have to do all of those processes at once in your laptop. And at the same time, you also might be in a position where you have to make a complementary music video. So you have to know video editing. And if you need to shoot, then you have to probably know a bit of photography, videography. Again, you don't need to be an expert, because at the end, all that matters is the combination, the finished aspect of it, the finished track. So bedroom producers must be good multitaskers. So yeah, this is it.
Like in the example, if you're taking it forward, would you be like, what's your particular domain? Is that like, would you be interested in doing all of them? Because I still find that the idea of a person doing mastering and then a person doing like different departments and such, they can also be like it like the final product is not what one might have desired of initially as such, because it's different people doing different tasks, and since you're doing all of them together, what do you feel might be the odds or the differences as such while working in a similar environment as together, or as individually, everything together, all the process as a single person, or all the process divided into the different departments and each person handles it as such?
There are, I think, two different philosophies to this. There are people who believe that if I know my song best, therefore I must mix it, I must master it, I must do everything to it, so that the end product is completely mine. On the other hand, there are people who believe that a second set of ears is always good. Because if you keep listening to the same song over and over again, you start ignoring the imperfections in it. Especially after composing and you go into the mixing stage. You are so used to listening to that song over and over again that you think it's already perfect. You come back 10 days later and you listen to it, you'll know how trash it is.
So you have any experience with that? Like
each one of my songs has been that way. Each one of my songs. So fundamentally, the composition should be good, but the mix, there is never a perfect mix. There is never a perfect master. It's always trial and error, and eventually you'll just, when you're tired is when you give up. That is what happens when you do everything on your own. But also for people who are busy, right? Producers who are busy, who have a very strict schedule, they do not have time to do everything. So what they do is they basically only do the arrangement part. Sometimes they sound design and they also arrange it, but they do not have the time to sit down and mix it and master it. So they outsource it. So when you have the money, when you are growing in your career and you have the money, you outsource it to professional mixing engineers and mastering engineers who serve as a second set of viewers who can critique it, understand the song better, and do the processing which is most apt. And they are also very updated with industry standards, as in how much volume does Spotify support. So there is a certain loudness measurement that Spotify supports, which is around -14 LUFS, is what they call it. That is the measurement for loudness. So as the industry keeps updating, as there are new audio codecs, new technologies, they also keep updating these standards. So these mixing engineers and mastering engineers are more well researched how to process the song. So at the end of the day, it sounds good, for the current audience. So that is why it's better off, to outsource it. Saves your time, energy, and also gives you a better product at the end of the day.
So if you have to make so since you completely specialize into electronic music, you won't in particular do with any genre. So basically, how do you start? What's the basic inspiration as to starting with the first thing? It's like in writer's terms, you have the writer's block, only towards the end where you don't have anything in your head to finish the entire song, finish the entire script as such. But then with regard to a composer as such, how do you begin from the very beginning as to how, what's the inspiration firstly as to why you want to do it? For example, I don't know, I often think of it in film music terms, but then obviously it's a lot more different when you're making it per genre as such. So how do you start, and then and how do you go on with the flow? Is it because you have already done many pieces, so maybe you can take certain aspects from different pieces as such, or is it's completely brand new, it's in your head, and then you try to put it piece by piece and finally to the final edit as such?
Like usually having the entire track in your head is not possible, for me at least. Have never made music that way, that I know exactly what I want and I put exactly that into the computer. If you're a classically trained musician, sometimes you might be able to imagine a 5-second melody and you might be in a position to translate it straight up onto your piano, and then you record it, and then there it's in your computer. But I have not been classically trained, so I haven't done that. So I always start with, so sometimes I just go and I mess around. A lot of playing, trial and error is involved. But sometimes there might be a certain melody in my head, and I put that melody onto the computer. And if it sounds good, I try to build the entire track around that melody. Before I think I can demonstrate it. I have the software open. Joel, I'll just demonstrate using my unfinished song. Like as an unreleased song, not an
even before it releases, it's featured here on the podcast. So if anyone is watching, can ultimately see the process as such from the start. But yeah, over to you.
So I have a guru. His name is Fake Tattoos. His stage name is Fake Tattoos. Okay. He's a Bangalore-based artist, and so he does Indian electronic music. So he makes bangers that have Indian sounds in it. And I was inspired by his sound, and during one of our conversations, he told me about a Swiss instrument. It's called hand drum. Okay. It's called hand drum. It's called handpan. It's called pan drum. There are multiple names to it, but it sounds like this, and it has a very divine sound. I just want to play this for you. I hope my audio. Yes, I'm going to share sound as well. Sorry. Stereo high quality. Okay. Here is the sound of a pan drum. So this is the sound of a pan drum, and as you can see, it's very ambient, airy. Just even if I play one note, it sounds so soothing to your ear.
Is it like a bell choir kind of like? Is it like the bell or something, or how's the instrument as such?
The instrument looks this way. Are you able to see my screen? It is like a drum, but it is a tonal drum. Okay. So every corner of the drum plays a certain note. And usually pan drums, as far as you studied pan drums, they are tuned to a certain key. Pan drums, if you buy an actual pan drum, they're very expensive. They are some 2-3 lakhs in Indian rupees, and each of the pan drum is tuned to a certain key. So you can get it in A major, F minor, E major, any key that you can imagine. You can ask them to custom make it to that key. So a pan drum can never be played out of key. But since this is a virtual instrument, I have none of those limitations. And also, this is a free virtual studio technology (VST) instrument, and it is not tuned to a certain key. It has the entire range of the keys in it. Okay. So I can make anything that I want. I am not restricted at all. And there are multiple presets. So this is one of the presets that I played, and there is another one. You hear that? So how it's a little more muted. So the previous one was more open.
Okay. So what like different modes with regard to like how did you like change it as such?
So these are pre-made presets.
Okay.
And I just click the button. If you can see my cursor, there is a thing that says load next preset. So this is more synth. This sounds more like a synth. See? So this is more electronic. But I like this more. This is more open and airy. So this melody, I just made this melody actually out of my head. I tried messing around, and I finally found some inspiration for it. I think this is changed to a different key. It's currently, I think, in F minor. But I think if you can see the MIDI file, it's written F minor.
Yes,
It's
yes.
F minor scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, but previously it was in A minor. And if I play that in A minor, it sounds a little bit like the Interstellar soundtrack,
Okay.
There is a certain melody in Interstellar. I don't remember the exact name of the song, but it sounds more like it. But I think that is where my inspiration comes from, and I pitched it down and I changed it to a different key, so that it doesn't sound similar to anything else. And then I made this melody. So.
It's like going down, like it's going down the key, and then you're like playing it on loop. Is it like how's the interpreting that?
Exactly, that is all. So this is one loop, and I just stretch it throughout the song. So this melody in itself sounds, in my opinion, so good that I didn't want to give up on it. So I knew that this could in itself make a great song. So the next step was to make a supporting chord structure. So I chose to, instead of using some piano or synthesizer, I thought I'll use strings because strings are more organic. This is a more organic sound, very natural sounding. Okay. So I used strings, and this is the strings.
Again, the keyboard, right?
So this is also a virtual instrument. Everything is virtual. Nothing is actually played. And I used MIDI here. If you like, you're able to see the video, but I don't think our audience will be, right?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so it's made using MIDI, and I use so this is a software called Contact, Kontakt. It's made by a company called Native Instruments, and this is a sampler. So what they do is they record real sounds of strings, and they map it to certain keys. Okay. So they record an E string, the D string, everything is recorded separately, and then you can play them using your computer. So these are actual string sounds, but they are arranged. Mm-hmm. So this is where you get the string, and together they sound like this. Yeah, I think if you are hearing a crackle, that's you struggling to death. Yeah. But again, so I added another supporting layer to the pan drums.
What is the difference? Like what in the previous one then?
So the tonality is different. So actually, yeah, the difference, there are two differences. Other than the fact that they sound different. Mm-hmm. The previous one was a software synth. Okay. So it's actually a synthesizer. It is not trying to. It does not have the recorded sound of a real cloud drum. That is a real pan drum. Hmm. In fact, it is fully software generated. The previous one. Okay. This is software generated, but this is the sound of a real pan drum. It was actually recorded.
Okay.
So I'm trying to mix both artificial and the real one, so that you get more variety, and together with the strings they sound like this. So you see how they blend together?
Yeah.
So I made
a different tone, and then like maybe you changed it to the original pan drum sound as such. Instead of using the initial the first few seconds what you had used as such.
Yeah, correct. So the first few seconds I soloed. I only soloed the synthesizer, the artificial pan drum. Mm-hmm. And then as later when it goes into the song, I add the strings and I also add the original pan drum. So there is more variety to the song. Mm-hmm. And there is also the bass layer here. The bass is very simple. So there are two layers of bass. Are you able to hear them? Unless you wear earphones, it's difficult to listen. I'll play the bass again for you. this is the bass. So together with the rest of it, it sounds like this. So with this, you already have pretty much the 50% of the song idea.
Yeah.
And now it's just a matter of creating more variety, adding drums, adding vocals, and the rest. So once I had this, I knew that I had to. So when you reach this point, right, in your production, as in while making the song, you realize that it is worth developing into a full project because everything sounds so cohesive. So then I finally added the drums and.
So drums is like the necessity for every electronic music as such. Like it has to be there, irrespective of what of any song as such.
Absolutely, and they have to be there, and they have to be very punchy. Okay. So usually the drums in electronic music, they're heavily processed, and DJs and producers, they make a very big deal out of how good their drums sound. As in, they're very meticulous about it. They're very particular about the way the drums sound. Because, if you mess it up, it won't sound good in the club. Because you're trying to mix your song with 100 other tracks. And it has to go well in your set, when you play live to the audience. It must be danceable, mainly. And so, it has to be punchy drums. So, if you look at my drum section here, I've used a sample. I'm adding more layers to it. CPU. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, now
it's cracking. Yeah, that's my CPU. So if you're looking at my processing rack here, you can see a lot of things on it. There is a drum bus. There is Camel Crusher. That is a specialized drum processing VST, and there is a little bit of EQ compression. So these are things that used to shape your song, to give it more volume, to give it consistent volume, and also to make it sound punchy. And finally, the result is a nice bass heavy drum that goes well with the bass. So in the end, it sounds like this. Sorry, I also played the vocal. I show the vocal separately, but yes. Yes, always get a powerful laptop.
So that's the often struggle you have while you're making the product. How do you know it's perfect, especially when it requires a lot of processing and the CPU also is required to be of a particular range. So how do you know it's perfectly sounding as such sometimes?
Usually when I produce, I am not streaming, right? So because now the laptop is doing two things. It's also streaming and it's also playing the audio.
Correct.
And there are a lot of software instruments that I'm using, so it's taking a lot of CPU.
Okay.
And usually when you're not streaming and you're just doing one thing and there are no background process running, then a laptop should run fine. The one I use is called the MSI PS42. It's a thin and light notebook. It's not even a gaming notebook. Okay. It's made only for productivity. It doesn't even have a GPU in it. It only has an 8th generation Core i5. That is a power efficient U processor, not the H, it's the U.
I see. Yeah.
So they run on low power, but it still manages to do production well. I haven't seen many laptops that can manage this. This has been done well, but if you push it too hard, it's difficult. But again, Joel, what Apple has done recently with the M1 chips, I think it's revolutionary. Because they're basically surpassing the power of a Core i9 16-inch MacBook from 2 years back.
Okay.
A thinner light laptop that has no fan in it. That it can surpass a 16-inch MacBook. So if you get it on student discount, it's some 75,000. I give you bank offers. On top of that, they're giving you student discount. Some people give 10%. Apple gives 10%, but third-party stores give you 13%. You couple that with a bank discount and also an exchange, you get it for dirt cheap. And that is an amazing machine. It won't struggle. Doesn't matter what you throw at it. It just does not struggle. It refuses to give up. So it's a beautiful chip, I think. And I think that will be my next choice or my recommended choice for producers who are getting who are starting out. Get there and you'll be set. It's also relatively more affordable. So yeah, and then the vocals that I've used here, I would actually like to play the whole track. So whole track, that is the finished product, so my CPU won't struggle now. I think I'll just stop it here. You listen to half the song, and the second part is a variation of it.
Okay. It actually sounds very like so I was getting to a question, like, when you added the vocals, right? So you're using I'm guessing it's already the samples are available online, the vocals are available online.
True. It is.
So
it is, yeah.
how so accordingly I'm like speaking from I don't know if it's the right question to ask, but then will there be any kind of objections with regard to using of vocals in a particular way, or even when you're stretching it, or like basically like dividing it or echoing accordingly as such? Do you prefer to use samples, or do you like actually prefer recording by yourself, or do, because accordingly it might match the music? Right now it does match the music, but sometimes you might also feel it doesn't really blend. Maybe the initial part to blend as such.
So there is a legal consideration, also the artistic consideration in it, right? So it has to sound good in your song, at the same time it has to be legal. So using samples is a more cheaper alternative than hiring a vocalist and recording it, because in a sample pack, usually sample packs go from anywhere between $20 to $50. They don't cross that price. Suppose you pay $20, and in that sample pack you get 3 different singers, many different samples, and many different phrases and choruses, intros. Everything is sung together and in different keys also, with different lyrics. All of that you get for $20.
Okay.
You get that sample pack. In the terms and conditions, you can see that it is written. It can be used anywhere. It's royalty free.
Okay.
As long as it is legally purchased, it is royalty free. Sometimes even if you legally download it from somewhere, there are very less chances of the sample pack maker actually finding out that you do not have a proper purchase. in which case you do not own the license to it, right? But the terms and conditions for the license say that it's royalty free, so you don't need to pay them anything as long as you have purchased it legally and you use it in your tracks. So if you pay $20, you get 5 or 6 songs worth of samples. If you hire a vocalist, you probably have to pay them $100 an hour.
Okay.
So there is an economic consideration to this, right?
Correct.
So yeah, that's why bedroom producers, it's a cheaper alternative for us to use samples. And how exactly do I make it fit to a song? So I just found out, coincidentally, you have to know your samples. I have some 70 GB worth of samples on my hard drive, and it is, if you check out this folder, I've organized them. There is dubstep, hip hop, house, and there is an entire folder for vocals. So the original sample sounds like this.
So pitch
black.
Sorry?
I see. Like, so what was this like? Basically, like, is it a different from what's the origin of this music as such?
So this is from a sample pack called Vandalism Ultra Progressive House Vocals. So Vandalism is a very popular sample pack maker. So there are sound designers who have started a company.
Okay.
So Vandalism is one of them. So their job is to go to the studio and make samples and sell them to producers. There is an entire industry out of this.
Okay.
Every drum beat, every sample that you hear in this song, they were made by a certain sample company. So there are sample pack companies. So there is Vandalism, and there is Loop Masters, very popular. They're extremely popular, Loop Masters. And there are record labels also. You have Anjuna Deep, Anjuna Beats. They also make sample packs.
Okay.
Especially for progressive house. So I would like to play this original sample to you.
Yeah, sure.
Pitch black skies, never saw you coming my way.
So it sounds like this. What I did was so it's in, I think, what key is it in? It's in F, right? It's an F major key.
Yeah.
My song is in, I think,
Minor is in
F minor.
Yeah.
So if you need to convert a major key into a minor key, you just go 3 semitones down. Because C major is A minor. You would have learned it, right? C major is A minor. You're going 3 semitones down.
3 7. Yeah.
So I put the vocal into the track.
Okay.
And sorry, it's not in F major. It's in F minor. It's already in F minor.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Suppose it was in F major. All I need to do is go 3 semitones down, and I can pitch it down. Then it'll go from F major to, I think. I'm not too sure. I got confused.
Okay.
Yeah. No, actually, if it's in, so C major is A minor, right? So if you need the minor version of any,
You go. Yeah, I'm guessing it. But
yeah, you go 3 semitones down. Suppose, but actually this thing is already in F minor. So all I needed to do was to take it and then put it into the song. I did not need to pitch it down or pitch it up, anything.
So like right now,
so it already fit.
It was just the plain vocal. There was no background.
There was no processing in it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fine.
So I take it, I put it into the song, and I have a processing chain that I made for myself. So it has various, effects built into it.
Pitch black skies, never saw you coming.
Oh my God, there's a lot of distortion. It's fine for you, right?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Heavy adrenaline, hands down. Turn my reality side.
It's distorting a lot for me.
Yeah, now it's
Yeah, but as you can see, you can hear the delay, you can hear the reverb, all of it.
Do you individually like pick each tone, and do you try to like increase the reverb and accordingly, or like it's already automatically done in the process as such?
So if you can see my screen here, I think there is a
vocal sauce.
Okay. Vocal sauce. Yeah, that is my vocal sauce. You just put that sauce on the vocal, everything transforms. So here I have my long reverb, and I have set it to 7-second decay, 100% mix, and so in terms of reverb, you have 1/4, 1/8. That repeats 1/8 every 1/8 of a bar.
Correct.
So I think it's currently set to some 7 seconds decay, and I don't know if it's some 1/4 or 1/8 vocal, but it has a certain setting in it.
Okay.
Yes, you see this reverb.
Ah.
Oh, sorry, delay usually only has that 1/4, 1/8, that setting. Reverb doesn't.
Okay.
So this reverb, in reverb usually you only adjust the mix and you adjust the decay time, how long it takes to die down. That is the decay time. So everything, there is a short reverb, there is a long reverb, and all of that combined together gives you that airy atmospheric feeling. And you see there are 3 types of delay that I use: 1/8 delay, 3/16 delay. 1/8 delay sounds like this. You see how it alternates?
Yeah.
So every 1/8 of a beat, of a bar, it alternates. There is a 3/16 delay. It sounds like this.
Now it's little.
And then there is the half delay, half note delay, it's called.
It's just like almost together, like one will like just simultaneously.
Okay. See, once I pause it, how long it takes to die down. So this is how it is. Yeah.
I see.
So you mix all of these together and you finally get that end product.
Okay.
Yeah. So you need to use varieties of delay, varieties of reverb, and then finally it sounds good to cover the empty space. That's all.
I see.
You watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, you get it.
Thanks for showing what's like behind the scene with regard to like making a new song. That's something like example, like okay, so like this is with regard to your song. Take a small like I know like it's going to be very repetitive, but then you had taken the one with your cat mewing, I guess, and then you had repeatedly played like. So is it that only playing with the vocals and then additionally, or how, or what do you mostly focus on? For example, if it's a very monosyllable vocal as such, and it's not like continuously.
Usually, what we try to do is we try to find something that has a rhythm to it.
Okay.
When a cat mews, right? If it has a sustained note, you just take that sustained note and you can play that into a key. I'll just show you an example. I might need to open. Sorry, I'll just use a new audio channel here. Sorry, give me a second. What I'll do is I'll just take a vocal from here.
Okay.
I'll show you how you can play that vocal into an actual piano, so to speak. Yeah. Hold on. Sorry. My MIDI is refusing to play.
Okay, if it's up, no issues. You can.
Yeah. So usually the process goes like this. You just take a certain sound that has a certain rhythm or a certain tonality to it, a sustained note.
Okay.
Let's say it's a cat saying meow, and then when it says meow, there is a certain sustained note in it, and you try to find the key, and you put it to a sampler. You pitch it down, you pitch it up. Okay. You get an entire octave of notes, and you try to make a melody out of it.
I see.
That is the process, and you can. So that is the creative use of a sampler, and you can do that with pretty much anything. Yeah, any sound, and yeah, that pretty much is how. Oh yeah, I have got it. So this,
my way.
you can hear him singing a certain phrase.
Heavy adrenaline hands.
That particular.
Let
part
me
of
take,
it. Okay.
yeah, let me take you to a sustained part.
Okay.
I'll reduce the volume a little. And now you can play it like a piano. You can play chords also.
I see. I see.
All that from this, just a single. So you take a sustained note and you try to pitch it up or down.
Okay.
Mm.
So
This is the example.
does it like get like how like example where I like playing it in the key in the piano kind of note, is it gets automatically recorded, or like basically you how do you like keep it like from start to finish? As an example, you're taking the sustained note, so when you're like putting it in the trying to take different keys as such, so how does it like completely record the entire octave as such?
So there is a certain algorithm, and
Okay.
that algorithm is responsible for trying to calculate the frequencies.
All right.
What frequency it must be played in so that it plays at the key of C or
Okay.
E or
Okay.
A. So it's all algorithm based. If the algorithm is strong, then the way it sounds also will be strong. And actually, in Ableton, you have this feature where you can choose the kind of algorithm you want it to. So
Okay.
there is a beats, tones, texture, repitch, complex pro. So if you play it in complex pro, it sounds different, and beats will be a little different. Actually, right now you can't see the difference, but if it's a different sound, then you might hear the difference.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
you use different algorithms, and you.
Yeah, like I think with that, like, so basically you have a controller as well, like so how would you like differentiate between like working on the computer and like making the entire sounds as well, or if you have your own controller, the entire system as well? So how do you like do you like use it as along with working on the key on the laptop, is it, or is it like separate device as such?
So while composing, there is no need for a DJ controller. A DJ controller is only for live performance. So a DJ controller has three things. There are two turntables, usually two, but up to a maximum of 4 turntables you can use. Okay. And there is a mixer. Usually in a DJ mix, what they do is they only mix 2 tracks at once. Okay. And they try to create a seamless, seamless mix of 1 hour. 1 hour set, 2 hours, 3 hours, as long as you want. But at one time, you can only mix 2 to 4 tracks. Okay. So they are fully made songs. So that's only for live performance. Whereas during production, you're trying to construct songs, right? So there is no need for an actual DJ controller. You would need a MIDI keyboard if you're a performer.
Yeah.
MIDI keyboard, or if you're like me, then you probably don't even need that. Or like many other producers. All they need is just laptop and a pair of headphones, and they using MIDI, they program everything. Okay. They don't need record much.
So I don't know if it's the right question, like, but how many instruments do you know in particular, or you're only focusing completely on this? Like especially you might be having a bit of knowledge about each instrument, and accordingly you're able to piece it together in a song as such, or is it just completely dependent on the system as such?
I have made an effort to learn keyboard, okay. But like I understood how to play chords, how the keys are played, but I'm not a good performer. I don't have good hand to mind coordination, so I can't really record it. But as a producer, it is important that you know how it works and where it fits, what sort of sound it can give, and so that's pretty much where my knowledge of instruments end. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm not a good piano player. Mm-hmm. But I can make reasonably good melodies using MIDI.
Okay. But even like violin, or even cello as well. I'm guessing even you must have like used cello as well as a part of your song, or is it just completely like keyboard and string?
Cello also. So you see that here, what I've used is I'll give you the example of the strings alone. You can hear the strings, right? Let's just try and convert that into piano. Then you'll hear the difference. My favorite piano virtual instrument is called addictive keys. They simulate pianos very well. A grand piano, that is. This is how it sounds.
So basically it does the same way, but then from cello to keyboard, it just converted as such.
Keyboard, you just convert it. Yeah, that's all. That's all it is. It's the same chord progression. There is no difference at all. And suppose you take it one octave down from the keyboard, it will sound insane. Another octave down, it sounds more dark. Yeah. So even one octave of difference is a lot sometimes.
I see.
Yeah.
So I guess even as we move towards the end, so like you said, your inspiration comes at the particular time frame. So how do you feel like, especially with regard, like what really came into your mind of trying to do a remix of the Christ Anthem for a second? Something which is like some kind of like a very pristine, divine kind of thing. Suddenly it's like what really made you like pulled across there?
I was so drawn towards dubstep back in that time.
Okay.
You know, when you're in first year, second year, it's just full of energy and you want some sort of outlet into it, right? So I was so much into dubstep. I listened to a lot of Skrillex, Virtual Riot, and heavy dubstep into like that. And then I realized, in Christ University, the Christ Anthem is the end of it all, right? Usually you finish an event and you wish that you ended it on a high note, and then they play the orchestral version of it, and that is the original. I have no complaints. It was nice, but I thought if I needed to if I needed to give something a radical twist in terms of music, I couldn't find a better song to choose than the Christ Anthem, because it's the exact opposite of bass heavy. So my idea was, I came home. It was the third day of quarantine, I think, during 2020, in March, right? In March is when we were sent home. Correct. It was the third day. I sat down on my computer, downloaded the Christ Anthem, and surprisingly, it goes well when you sample it. I was able to sample a certain part of the song, and I used it in the drop. I just chopped it. I chopped the vocals, and it served really well. So it's a common technique that producers use. They take old records and they sample it, and they add more drums to it, and then transform it into something really nice. And that is exactly what I did with the Christ Anthem bass remix. Students enjoyed it. Students had fun with it. I'm not sure if the management knows that it exists. I wish they don't, but even if they did, it's just my rendition of what I wish the anthem was. I did it out of love and respect for the university and the culture, and rather than anything else. Yeah, I think it was well received by the students. Yeah. They said it hits hard, it's nice and bass heavy, and
yeah. Like you mentioned about the current scene as such, it's only in in Bangalore or just respective to like metro cities as such.
Hmm.
Do you are you unsure of any instance of wherein there are some who are still like pretty underground and they are doing in the respective towns and they're trying to like ensure it tries to reach the mainstream level, or it's very restricted towards Bangalore or the clubs and things like that? Is it always like that?
There are a few artists that I would like to mention right now
Okay.
from my circles. So in Chennai, I was talking about Ashwin Subramanian, right? He's a good producer, but he has not started DJing it because in Chennai, I interned there several times in the Madras High Court, and as far as I know, electronic music culture does not exist there. People go for shows, but those DJs only play the local music or Bollywood music or pop music, commercial music. There is no house or techno or anything like that. So the scene hasn't grown. But there are producers in Chennai, a lot of them, who are making good music, who are making good electronic house music that can be played in clubs. But the point is, they're not able to make money out of it. They're not able to sell it because the scene is still non-existent. Whereas in Bangalore, I know a few artists who are good. Of course, my guru, Fake Tattoos, he's exceptional and he's making it big in India. He's one of the busiest touring artists in India right now. That is before the COVID restrictions that are newly imposed. And there is a techno artist. I think he's currently techno and melodic house. He's signed with Anjuna Above and Beyond's label.
Okay.
His name is Weird Sounding Dude. That is his stage name. He makes good progressive house music. He's there. And
I just want to but I'm so sorry. Like, is it always necessary to have a stage name than like a real name, or is it because it's like gets more like from outside, or like what's the main essence behind the stage name as such? I can understand from acting perspective. Is it like very similar to what people do in the acting field, or is it a particular reason why it's you have a stage name as such?
The science behind a stage name for a DJ is because it's on a flyer.
Okay.
So if I put it on a flyer, if I put my name as Ambarish, I think Ambarish as a name sounds good. But there are a lot of other Ambarishes. There is Ambarish, the Kannada actor, and there are several Ambarishes on Instagram. But whereas Ambrose with a Z and a T, they're unique. Whereas Fake Tattoos for a DJ name, right? My guru, it has a certain story to it. It has actually he has a story behind why he named himself Fake Tattoos.
Okay.
And that has to do with him having a lot of fake tattoos during his college time when he went to parties and stuff. So he derived his name from there. And he has an entire branding surrounding it. Right? But his real name is Samprut Mohanty. So you put Samprut Mohanty on a flyer. I'm not sure if it would receive as much attention and curiosity as what Fake Tattoos can do.
I see.
Or what Ambrose with a Z and a 3 can receive as much as Ambarish can do. It has to look good in flyers. It has to sound good. It has to arouse your curiosity. And people ask you, how did you, come up with that name? And what relevance does it have to the kind of work you do? Me being South Indian and Tamil, I sometimes do feel like I must have come up with a better stage name. But maybe later down the line, I can switch it. Although it will be a little difficult, but yes. But these are the main reasons behind having a stage name.
So like right now you're releasing your albums on Spotify and other platforms as well, but why do you think people are moving more into the DJ space than towards home production as such?
I do want to eventually play more shows, but that too, I want to play my own original tracks. If you really want to make a name for yourself and have a solid career, it is important that you have your own original music. So that's the difference between a DJ and a producer. Like a DJ can play other people's music. But there are good DJs, right? Good DJs who can really hype up the dance floor and keep the energy alive, may host a good party. On the other hand, there is a producer who gives a live performance. So people come there for his music, for him.
Okay.
They come to have fun, but to his music only. So I think I want to be that kind of an artist where I play my own original sounds and I try to express myself like that. And you see my track here, my idea is to fuse dance with organic tribal Indian sounds.
Okay.
And I feel like Indian house music will gather a lot of momentum in the coming future because it is doing that right now, and eventually it will just keep getting better and better. And I wish that I can step into it if time and luck allows.
Have you tried playing any of your pieces in the public forum as such?
I have. I premiered my first track in November 2021. Actually, two of my tracks.
Okay.
For the first time, I played my original music, and that happened just what was it? 4 months, 5 months ago.
All right.
That's all. And the response was really nice because I made sure that the track was good for the dance floor. It sounded great on my big speakers. So naturally, when I played that on the dance floor, it sounded good, and the response was fine. And I think I have hopes of this track as well. I think this can also work on the dance floor.
Hope that will go.
It tells a lot. The audience reaction tells a lot when you go play a track, especially if you one of my favorite artists of all time is Bonobo. He's an English DJ and music producer. He's also an orchestral arranger, conductor. He is multi-instrumentalist, and he makes organic house music. And he like his songs are so versatile that you can listen to them chilling at an airport lounge. At the same time, you can play that in a club and people will dance. It's that versatile and excellent producer. And when he makes a dance track, the best way to know whether it's good or not is to play it out to the crowd live and observe their actions and reactions to it. And yeah, I tried that for the first time. Kudos to Fake Tattoos. I opened for him.
Okay. Where did you try it exactly?
Watson's in Indranagar, Bangalore.
Okay.
That is where it happened, and the response was rather fun. The dance floor, it was around 7 p.m. at night, and the clubs were supposed to close by 11:30. So the crowd didn't enter the floor till about 8:30 or so. So I had a relatively less crowd, but whoever was there, they were vibing. And so I think, that spoke volumes. I think.
So have you been approached by anyone like to do for them? Like I'm not saying that like those who are of the record labels, but even those who want to like do a collaboration with you, or even those who are of a bit of who are a bit well known as such. Have you been approached, and also how has it been with regard to that?
I have not been approached by a popular artist. I have done a track with Fake Tattoos himself. And Fake Tattoos is currently becoming popular, but still it's lying on our hard drives. We think that we can refine it better. So I've done collaborations with him, but I have collaborated with a lot of lesser known artists, not a lot, two of them. Two of them at this stage of my career, I think is valuable for me. One is a lady by the name of Tia Batija. She's currently in her schooling. She's doing her schooling in Bangalore. And she was referred to me by one of my friends, one of my school friends, a junior from school. But she switched schools and she was in the school Khoya. That is where she met Tia. And she referred Tia to me. So Tia and I made a song together. I made the music, she sung that song.
Okay.
It's called By Your Side.
By Your Side.
They're on Spotify.
Living each day like there ain't no tomorrow. That's why I told my friends when they asked me about you, but I'm done playing my games. I've done the best that I could, but I can't keep up, baby. Cause life without no choices will make me go crazy, crazy, crazy. So just keep dancing and moving and grooving my body to the beat.
And then I've done another song with one of my friends called Animesh Duklan. He's a hip hop artist, and he does Hindi rap.
कोई खास नहीं कोई पास नहीं मिलने की थी मुझे आस नहीं दम घुट रहा या सांस नहीं पहुंचे कंधों पर जान नहीं अच्छा नहीं मैं संस्कारों से ना फर्क पड़ता इन बातों से उन्हें लगता अब भी पासों में पर खड़ा अलग ना साथों में तेरे साथों में तेरी बाहों में आज चल चली फिर उन राहों में तू थी बसी इन सांसों में देखा करूं तेरी आंखों से सीखा है बहुत उन रातों से अब हारा हूं मैं जज्बातों से टूटा सारे उन वादों से और खोया फिर से तेरी यादों में
He currently resides in Andhra Pradesh, but he's originally from Dehradun.
Okay.
So he and I, we met at our PG in Bangalore, where I was staying during my college. and he studied in a different institution. But I knew that he had an interest in hip hop. So once I made a beat and I showed it to him, he liked it. And all this happened over quarantine, remotely. I have never met Tia actually. Tia Bhattacharya, I've never met her. It all happened remotely. But Animesh, I met him. And with him, I made a song called Khoya. So that's a fusion of electronic and Hindi rap.
Okay.
That song, I think, in our opinion, it was unique and we really liked it, but it didn't gain as much traction as we expected, because we didn't, first of all, market it properly. Marketing is super important for an artist these days.
So how do
You have to know how to
do you like
Facebook ads.
Okay.
Facebook ads, a very good resource for marketing. Instagram. So when you put it on Facebook, it also shows up on Instagram.
I see.
And making reels, that is good marketing. Making your reels go viral somehow. But mainly Facebook.
I see.
Facebook marketing, yeah. Usually, a good move for the artist is to, when you earn money from your gigs or from your streams, you're obligated to reinvest it into your marketing, so that you keep growing your audience. More people get to know you. So in the initial stages of your career, all that money is actually being reinvested rather than going into your pocket and just remaining there.
So like you have got like so there has been some essence of revenue as well, value when you were able to put it across, or this is just completely your passion project or your?
Right now, I haven't made any income from my streams so far, because the streams, because I'm not a well-known artist currently, not yet. So maybe, I don't know. I'm not certain. I should never count my chickens before they hatch. But I want to make more songs, and once I do them, I think I see how it goes. But I have made money from my gigs and from playing shows. It was reasonable for one night of work. I think I was paid fairly. Could have been better, but still, whatever money I earned, I used it into marketing actually.
Okay.
So let's say they give me a certain amount of money from the gig. Usually, you use it into your ad budget for YouTube.
Okay.
You pump it into there, and then your audience grows. When your audience knows you, the demand increases, and then you get more bookings.
Okay.
So it's important to utilize your shows properly. It's also important to make sure that you make good songs, you put it there. They also market it. So they have to go hand in hand.
So but considering now the COVID and everything, there's been like a lot of restrictions in clubs and stuff like. Has it also like hurt a lot of like the entire DJ space, or right now you aren't really focusing on it? You're basically producing your music and at home, or you would like to go back to doing it as well?
Yeah, I want to go back
situation.
to doing my. True, yes. I want to go back to doing shows, and it has definitely affected the DJing industry a lot, because a lot of DJs had their bookings done. They were booked to play a lot of shows. Suppose there is an Indian artist who has been booked internationally, their shows would have been cancelled right now because of COVID. So it completely prevents them from reaching an entirely new audience. And so that is one of the drawbacks of this COVID situation. But at the same time, it gives you time to make more music, potentially more material that you can release later in the future. But also, because it's COVID, you're mentally not very strong. Right? It tests your mental capacity, like your emotionally, your mental health, all of that matters. So yeah, that is that.
And so like as far as I've seen your music, I think one song stands out from, like, one of the pieces stand out from the others is that I think it's that beat delivery dude. Like, compared to the other ones, it's a lot more different, and it it's like your, I'm not saying it's generic thing, but then it's completely kind of like the the party song, which obviously the drop and everything is what you want to expect in every party. So the other ones include vocals and includes everything else as well. So have you received like how what was your process over there, and also compared to like do you prefer like doing those kind of pieces, or you have a special liking towards artists as such?
I made that song back in 2019 when I did not know anything about production.
All right.
I had no knowledge of mixing. I had no knowledge of how to EQ or master or anything. And it was the pre-expert era. Now, I'm not expert by any chance, but I'm obviously, I think I'm miles better in terms of understanding music and the industry than what I was when I started out. So that song was made when I started out. I had zero knowledge of what it was. In fact, you see, the bass in that song is not even balanced properly. If you play that in a cup speaker, I'm pretty sure it will sound very bad.
Right.
So, because I did not have studio monitors, I only had a pair of headphones.
Right.
And I also did not balance the volume, mix it properly. It's not well mixed, that song. But still, I did like it at the end of the day, because I released it because I liked it at one point. And yeah, it's a typical party song. But also it fits into a certain very niche genre called bass house. It's a mix of dubstep and house.
Right.
Like I said, I was listening to a lot of Skrillex back then. But at the same time, I was starting to discover house music. So, and then I realized there is this genre called bass house where they take dubstep noises, all those growls and weird screeches, and they try to put it into a 4x4 house format. And I was listening to this one artist called Joyride. He's currently signed to Skrillex's label in US. It's called Outlaw. He's signed there. He's a British artist. JOYRYD. Excellent artist. You can check him. And he was my inspiration for that song. Beat There Every Day. Yeah.
So before I go, like before we leave, so like is there any like if someone is listening to them and if they want to like venture into the field, what are the opportunities available, and is there a particular like even if they're approaching record labels or even those who are of a niche or a mainstream kind of a space as such, do they necessarily need a portfolio, or do they necessarily have to have X amount of their work, and how would they possibly try it out, and also if any opportunities or recommendations you would like to suggest as such?
So if you are starting out, it is necessary first thing that you have the willpower to devote a lot of your time to the industry. Actually, if you need to make it in the industry, it doesn't happen overnight for sure. It takes at least 2-3 years to first of all learn the art, and second of all to put it out there, get some feedback, and trying to make money out of it. It's a long process. It takes time, and like usually when you see in media, the way artists are portrayed is like they became stars overnight. But what you do not really see is the amount of sleepless nights, the amount of bloodshed, sweatshed that has gone into it. So it takes a lot of process. So you must have time on your hands. And the way the industry is positioned right now is you need some financial backup as well, because you have to invest it into your equipment. And once you start making songs, once you put out the songs, first of all, for putting out, you need to pay money to music distributors. Okay, so I pay some $20 to this company called DistroKid to put out my music, and I have to be able to pay $20 every year.
So it's not like it's an open source sort of free domain as such. You have to like pay for even for on platforms as such.
Yeah, if you need to expand your platforms, then yes. Correct. If you're putting it exclusively on YouTube, then it's fine. Okay. But let's say your song is so good and you put it on YouTube, and people will come ask you to put it on Spotify so that they can add it to their playlist and listen to it over and over again. Okay. Because Spotify is more widely used for music than YouTube. Correct. In which case, you'll be pressurized into actually spending the money to get it distributed. Mm-hmm. If you find a record deal, then it's different. But record deals also have a catch in them, which I'll get to later. But you have to pay money for distributors. Then, let's say your parts break, your computer breaks, your mouse breaks, your MIDI keyboard breaks. Spend extra 10,000, 20,000. That's not simple money. It's a lot of money. And luckily, my parents have been very supportive, and our economic condition also has been such that it has been able to fund my passion project. And so, if you are looking to get into it, I would suggest that you do have some full-time job. It will be difficult to balance music and that, but it is not a wise decision to leave off your regular income entirely and then choose music, because it's a gamble here. And because you need to constantly put in money to support until you start earning from music entirely, it is not advisable to put your day job unless you have some savings. And if you have savings, then it's well and good. Other than that, like you mentioned, Joel, having good volume of work is important, and you're the best judge of your own songs. So you have to make songs that you like, and in order to make songs that you like, it will take a minimum of 3 years. For the first 2 years, or everything that I made, I hated, and that is a common feeling for all producers, because your expectations and your capabilities are different. You expect more from yourself, but you're not capable of doing. But to reach a point where you have the capacity and the expectation match at the same time, will take 3 years to sort of learn the craft. Maybe if you're a quick learner and you have plenty of time on your hands, the time will reduce. But it does take time and takes a lot of effort. And once you build a good amount of volumes of work, and once you know where to sell it, suppose you live in Tamil Nadu and you live in Kumarapalayam like me, and you're planning to sell house music in Kumarapalayam, absolutely won't happen. Maybe you will get booked for weddings, but you cannot play original music here. So where you live, what sort of audience you have, that is also important. So if you are a house artist, if you're a trap artist, if you make techno or house, it's best that you move to Bangalore or Goa and try and sell your music there. Try to get a residency at a club so that you can test out your tracks, get some income, and then try to make contacts, try to meet people, and then you build your career there. So where you live is important. What sort of audience you're looking at, how you're going to market it to them and sell it to them, is also something you have to think about. So this can be a factor of consideration while producing, but not while you're starting out. While starting out, make anything that you want, take anything that you want, try to remix it, play around, cut, chop, do some funny things. But when you are considering a serious career, and once you know that you're good at music, try to channelize that energy into making tracks that you can eventually sell. That is important. For that, you have to observe, listen to other people's music, listen to DJ sets, treat it like a job. Trying to discover new music becomes a job when you're busy. So all of that is there. But yes, keep listening to music. That is one piece of advice that I have received and I would like to pass on. If you want to make it, if you want to be a musician, just keep listening to music. It will keep you inspired. You can't do it all the time. Sometimes you'll be in a sad state that if you listen to a song, it will make it more sad. But try and put effort into discovering new music and keep listening to more and more music. So it will boost your curiosity and it will push you to learn more techniques of making newer and better music. So yeah.
Is there like a starter pack, like example, like the basic equipment which one needs to have essentially for starting out, like just amateurish also, or is even while you're trying to like build it up, it's like a basic equipments you have a list of, or things like that?
Basic equipment is if you have the money to spend, let's say you have considerable amount of budget, 1 lakh Indian rupees would be fair, I would say. And in that, you would spend 70 to 80,000 on a laptop. You need a minimum of Core i5 and 8 gigabytes of RAM if you're choosing Intel. If you're choosing M1 Mac, great, awesome, go for it. Get it with a student discount, and you'll get all of those. And you have a lot of free softwares out there. Actually, softwares are expensive. Ableton Live itself is Ableton Live Suite is $800. But you do have free softwares out there. Free digital audio workstations. You can download them and you can use them. So you don't need expensive equipment to make music. So primary budget is 80,000 on a laptop, and then a good pair of headphones. I would recommend anything from Audio Technica. Anything as in the M series, M20X, M30X, 40X, 50X. If you have good amount of money, go for the M50X. It's from 10,000 to 11,000, but it's probably the best investment you'll make for a musician, because those headphones sound really good. They sound good at the same time. They also give you a flat frequency response. So mixing and mastering becomes a breeze. Only those two are enough to get started. Bare minimum, laptop and a pair of headphones. You can use a trackpad and you can use your keyboard that's inbuilt. But if let's say you want to work faster, just get this mouse. It's a Logitech G102. Gaming mouse, tracking is precise. In a gaming mouse, tracking is precise. That's the reason why they are preferred in the professional community as well. And what is it? 1,500. So if you have a 1 lakh budget, then you can comfortably get started in music. Suppose you can extend it more, get a pair of studio monitors. Anything from JBL 305P Mark II. Those are studio monitors to get started, good ones. They cost somewhere 22,000, 23,000 for a pair. So they are good. Alesis is a brand of studio monitors. They are also good. If you're in a very tight budget, get Alesis. You can expand your budget a little more, get this JBL.
Like something which can like fit into your, like if you are living in, if you're like next to your bedroom and like you barely have like the small table or a cupboard as such. So those in that kind of a space, the equipment what you have is
so for that the inch of a subwoofer, the size of a subwoofer matters. Okay. So you get anywhere from 3.5 inches to 8 inches of studio monitors.
Okay.
I personally have a 6-inch studio monitor. It has a 6-inch subwoofer. So it's called the 306P Mark II from JBL. I have 2 of those. If you have a bigger room, then get a bigger monitor. If your room is smaller, then you need a smaller studio monitor, because let's say you have a bigger woofer and a smaller room, the woofer won't be able to complete the cycle. No, the waves, once they hit and there is the left and right channel, they have to meet in the end.
Okay.
If they don't meet, then you get bass build-up in the room corners of your room, and only thing you'll hear is bass. Everything else gets drowned out.
Okay.
I had a 16:6 room. For that, 6 inches was good. In fact, if you have a room that is the size of 12 into 10, 6 inches would be preferred.
Okay.
6 inches or 5 inches. Bigger than that, get 8 inches. Yeah.
And the software you mentioned was like Ableton, or like what's the free ones? If you remember of any, like when you started as such.
So I got my MIDI keyboard. It's called the Novation Nonski MIDI. With that, the Ableton Live Lite was bundled.
Okay.
But again, that counts as a paid software. A free digital audio workstation, I can't recall anything out of my head.
Right.
But paid ones I can tell you. So there is FL Studio, there is Ableton. For Mac, there is Logic Pro. GarageBand is free if you're on Mac. Logic Pro X is good if you're a Mac user. But Ableton I prefer Ableton because Ableton, your workflow can be extremely fast. Ableton, if you can know how to remember the shortcuts, where to click, what to do, you can make beats very fast on Ableton. And at the same time, Ableton was designed as a live performance tool also. You know how DJs use controllers for live performance?
Correct.
If you have a MIDI controller and a drum pad, you can connect that to Ableton and use that for live performance. So the Ableton is good. Whereas on FL Studio or Logic, you can't do any of this. So if you are looking to get into live electronic music, then I would 100% recommend that you choose Ableton.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the DAW advice from myself.
Like, would you suggest like just uploading the audio song, or you would like also supplement it with a video in order to get more traction as such? Like basically like it should sound like a music video than the music alone.
So if you need more attention and more traction for the song, a video can help, but it's not always the case. There are, usually these progressive house tracks from Anjuna Beats, Anjuna Deep, they don't have music videos usually with them. The songs themselves are so good that there is no video needed for them at all. Whereas if you are a pop artist or a hip hop artist, it's almost mandatory that you need a music video. So if you have the budget to shoot a video, I think spend the money, shoot the video, see what kind of response you get. Based on that, more songs you make, decide whether or not you have to shoot more videos. But there is an alternative also. There are free, stock footages.
Okay.
I used to have this site. I used to use this site. I don't remember the name exactly, but you do get stock videos on that site. I did that for one of my music videos. It's called Open Door. It's a song that I have on Spotify. It's also there on YouTube. All the footages used there are stock footages, and I just pieced them together. And they actually kind of do look like a music video, and it's also cohesive. So I did the editing, I did all the so music was mine, editing was mine, everything was mine, and it saved me money. Took a lot of time, but also it obviously is not as good as it could have been if I had spent the money in shooting an actual dedicated video for it. But you can do that during a later stage in your career. If you're starting out and do not know how your audience is or whether it will have returns on investment, best do not spend the money. Save it. Try to build an audience first and then spend the money into making music.
Yeah. So I think with that we should close. So thank you so much, Ambrish, for spending the time here. And I'm so sorry, like it's overshot the time, and if it's of any inconvenience to you, I'm so sorry for that. But
no problem, sir. No, it's just thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for
and thank you for patiently listening.
No, like it's something which really interested me, especially the process that you were able to experience, like tell it from the very scratch, and as to how you like processed it with regard to be it the setup, be it all those notes, the vocals, etc. So that's something which really interested me, and hopefully that the audience too likes the same as well. So thanks, Ambrish, for like coming forward, and also at a very late notice that you were able to like join as well. And with that, if you have any recommendations finally with regard to or if any inspirations as to what really inspires you to do it every day, and also like a few recommendations to the audience as such.
Listen to Joel's podcast. My inspiration is you have playlists on Spotify, right? You have for electronic music, you have playlists called Mint, Housework. So you go on them, you get all the chart topping electronic songs are there. So suppose you listen to the same sort of songs again and then you get bored. Just find a nice Spotify playlist and listen to it. And you'll discover a ton of new artists, ton of new songs. And it is now music is democratized. You don't need to be having 1 million listeners to be discovered. You can have 50,000 listeners monthly, and you release one song, and that song is so good that people are responding to it. It'll get playlisted on Spotify, or somebody discovers it, puts it on a playlist. So find new playlists like that and discover new songs. The more you listen to them, the more variety you gain. That way, it will just keep you inspired forever. It's like an endless source of inspiration. Spotify playlist. Yeah.
So with that, thanks, Ambrish, once again for coming in. And with regard to this episode, you'll be able to find this episode, the full length on YouTube and Spotify, and also on Instagram as well. Until then, when we meet with regard to the next episode, also I'd like to thank Ambrish once again for being so kind in order to like show everything as such. So that stay tuned to the podcast and do like, share, and subscribe. So thank you for listening, and goodbye.